Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're running a little bit late today, but hey, it's all right. We'll get there anyway. As I'm working, still got a couple of kinks out in this system here. And I don't know why that's on. I don't know want it to record. I don't know what's going on there. But anyhow. Solar wind right now, just under 400. Proton density is less than 4 again. So it's 3.14. Had a C3 and a C4 flare in the last 24 hours. And we have a new sunspot, 4446, that has beta gamma magnetic field. Yeah, that means it can do an M-class solar flare. With the chance for X, maybe? Oh, well. We got a reporting an earthquake right now, according to USGS. The latest earthquake, Indian Ocean, popping twice. Bam, bam. Yeah, 6.0. Right there. Rock and roll, man. They've got it twice. So let me see, 527, 7, 801, and 9 minutes apart. One of these is probably going to drop off, but maybe not. Boom, boom. 2 big 6s down here in the Antarctic, just below Australia. That's what's popping right now. We'll go to UTC on that, and then we'll do the miles. Freak the European bull doo-doo. Anyway, I digress, don't I? Yeah. I'm not European. I don't like to be peed on. Anyway, as of yesterday, the big rock and roller we had was near 6.9 here in Chile. Yes, I did. I called that one. I said I'm looking into Chile right after the Hawaiian earthquake, and let's see, where was that sucker? Right there, right, 6.9, Calama, Chile. Yeah, and now they have it at 67 kilometers or miles deep. Yeah, it was a little bit deeper, but now it's not. So many people rock and rolled with this one, but only 76 reported it. And you can see they don't have any more information on it there. Yeah. All right. Just wanted you to remember that 6.9, 29 kilometers. It came out at like well over 100 kilometers in depth. And so I don't know. 6.9 now. So as of recently, we have seen that the activity kind of spread out a little bit, moving up into Peru and moving down the coast. So I'm still kind of bewildered where this pressure is going to go. Kind of like this. When you dig a hole and water comes, it fills up, right? So you got to create a cavity for something to happen. And that's what the 7.0 is. Although, pressures build up and the rocks break, that's telling us something. And what's it telling us? I don't know. Drink a cup of coffee. Y'all have your coffee? It's brand new and it's lukewarm now. I guess Luke is, he's in the wind, man. Yep. Anyway, he's out there working. Hopefully he's working, he's a good boy. Worry about him. But that's only because he's my brother. Anyway, so we've had a 4.4 and a 4.4, both in southern Peru and just south of the active volcano that's up in here. Speaking of volcanoes, we got another happening in Mexico. I think that's pretty interesting. We'll try to find the information on that. But also in Iquique, another 4.6. Moving on out, then just east of Antofagasta, we got a 4.7. But right through the epicenter, 4.0 and a 5.1. All these, I believe, are aftershocks, and the pressure is moving north and south. radiating outward, just kind of like when we go over and look at our buddies uh, at Dynamic Earth, right? So when we look at our buddies over here at Dynamic Earth, I do support them. I think they're great people, and um, but these are the seismograms here, and they show you what's happening around the Earth and the vibrations that emanate outward. So we had that earthquake down here in Chile, and it irradiated all the way up and around the world, and we saw it moving as it did the other day. So just like that, as those things irradiate outward, you know, from the planet, if we had um, if our planet is a blue, right, our blue planet, right, right, so like that. So if we had an earthquake that took place, um, like right here, then what would happen would be um, that irradiation would irradiate outward, you know, over time, and as it met obstacles and the like, then it would bounce off the extremities. So looking at the side view, if this is the surface of the earth, right, the crust, right, let's just put a C for that, and this is the upper mantle, right, um, and then this would be down here would be the lower mantle, and then of course the core, right, and this is just a side view. So if we had an earthquake in the crust, the crust is somewhere between 10 and 75 miles deep, right? Um, and to the core is like, I don't know, like 13,000, something like that, maybe more. I don't remember. I don't know. Let's ask the question. How deep is the core? How deep is the core of the earth? There you go. Here we go. Depth is 6,400 kilometers. You know, shoot, howdy, I got to do math, right? 6,400 divided by 1.6, about 4,000 miles. All right. So, like I said, it's, from the crust to the core. And you can see the shape of the core, however you want to look at it, right? The different parts of it, right? This will probably help you. This will help you. The inner core, the outer core, the mantle, and the crust, right? I call them a little bit different. How I break it down, the lower mantle, the upper mantle, right, and then the crust, and then the core, right? The outer core, the inner core. You can put another line in here. The inner core, the outer, right? So, all to say is in the crust if the earthquake happens, and then what happens as a result is it irradiates out in all directions, right? And as it does, it encounters different material. Like the crust is different from the upper mantle, it's different from the lower mantle. So what happened is these just aren't. If this is a different viscosity, then it's gonna kind of warp, right? The signal will warp, and then if it gets down to here, it'll even warp more, right? So it won't be just concentric circles like this, and like this. As the signal goes out, it'll start to distort, and then as if it hits another object that's really harder than where it was, oops, go like this, then what will happen is a secondary signal will be sent out, and then that will reflect on another signal, and then another signal, and then it gets really, really messy. And so it's just kind of like waves on a flat piece of water, and you throw a rock in it, then that happens, and that's what kind of changes everything. So um, when the pressure moves outward, and this is the Andes, right? They're big darn hard rock mountains, and although they're more buoyant than what's down below, meaning these will float more than what's down below because this is in a subduction zone. The let me do another map here. The subductant plate comes in, and then basically the Andes, right? Right. So you have this part of the crust goes down with what's called the lithosphere, and then parts of the upper mantle diving down below. Below the this is the crust, this is the lithosphere, this is the upper mantle, parts of it. Okay, so we say this is the crust, this is the lithosphere, and this is the upper mantle. Basically, what the lithosphere is a transition zone from crust to the upper mantle. All right, so and this is all lifted up by volcanic activity or by pushing pushing up on where this is subducting down. This is riding up and over. So we do have coastal ranges, right, that build up. So this is the mountains that are way back there, and then what happens is this is kind of like this over time. And as this is moving in that direction, this is moving in that direction. This builds up dirt, and parts of the crust rises up out of the water, rises up and over, and parts of it, most of it goes down with the lithosphere, and then parts of the upper mantle. And then this part rises up and over. I can change the color on that. So this part rises up and over, rises up and over. And what'll happen is this is termed more buoyant than this. And so this is a heavier material. It's more condensed. It'll sink. This won't. It'll ride up and over the top. And this transition zone of what's happening, this subducting, is where earthquakes happen. The pressure of the rocks rising up and over, the pressure of the rocks rising or lowering down, the breaking of the stuff down here from water that gets trapped in this mix, gets down in here, it heats up, it turns into a gas, and as that gas, it expands. And as it expands and heats up, it cracks the rocks that are down there. And then when it cracks the rocks, it actually starts to melt them. Excuse me. As it starts to melt, it turns into magma. That magma rises up to the surface because it's lighter and full of gas, wanting to be expelled from the core, and it breaks itself all the way up. And then when it finally rises up, it blows out into a volcano. That's kind of what's going on in a subduction zone. So earthquakes, when they happen, they can happen here, and then it'll radiate out in every direction until it hits a more dense, and then it reflects back, or it'll reflect, differently, right? So this will start its own circles. This will start its own circles. So the main signal will continue as it goes out, but it will create smaller, less um, noticeable stuff. But over time, um, in that same instance, when the earthquake's doing that as it goes out, the pressure here that was released sends pressure over here, and then this part becomes weaker, and then this part becomes weaker, and then this part becomes weaker. So over time, we keep getting all these earthquakes over here, right? And they start going out and out. Pressure gets put on these points here, and soon enough, these will break. But they can break when they sink down below, or they can break, on the way down below, or any other time. Just depending on what the amount of stress upon that particular point and what's being subducted down. Generally speaking, we see anywhere from 25 to 150 miles inland on a subduction zone for earthquakes. We don't really see 400-mile earthquakes out there on average. But what we do is we see them within 20 to 150 miles. Although we can see earthquakes over here happening, it's a larger portion of what the earthquakes that are happening in a subduction zone on this side of the subduction zone. So for that instance, looking up here in Mexico, right? Here's the subduction zone of Mexico, but the earthquake's up here, a 4.2 that happened today, not too long ago actually, right? And if we went 30 days, you can see all of these earthquakes that are happening, not so much on the plate boundary where it starts to subduct down, but it's happening all within. This one here happens to be 21 miles deep. This one here happens to be 6.2 miles deep. This one in here is 122 miles deep. And you can see how far off it's, 100 miles inland. So the subducting plate here. And this one here is 6.2 miles deep. But it's in Honduras that happened, on the 6th of May. That could be due to this fault that works through that's created all these other splays. You can see there's a nice splay right here and right over here, all these canyons. Doesn't have to be a subducting earthquake. And this one here, 21 kilometers. So like I said, right in that 20 to 25 mile depth range is usually what a subduction earthquake will be, up to 150 miles inland on average. That don't mean it can't affect something 200 miles in, but it's not normally the case. Usually anywhere from the plate boundary and inland, like I can look at Indonesia, right? Let's zoom over to Indonesia, right? Here's the subducting plate right here, boundary. We do have an earthquake on this side, which is a 4.0, and it's 6.2 miles deep. Here's a 6.2 miles deep, 4.6. Yeah, and it's on the inside. And here's another 13 miles, 14 miles deep. So all of these quakes are happening due to the plate subducting, the Australian plate subducting under the Sunda subduction zone here for Java and Sumatra and Indonesia here. And you'll see on the inside here, that's what's happening here as this slides underneath all this, under the Philippines and under Halmahera and Sulawesi. It dives underneath, lifts this up, and there's earthquakes along this side. And this is the, Marianas are out here. Same kind of thing happening there, right? there's a spreading center that is created, or weakness in the plate behind there. And we can see that with this one. Yep. And you can see there's the weakness of the plate behind there. That's virtually a continental rift boundary, a spreading ridge, right? And the subducting plate lifting up and breaking that weakness in the plate behind there. So that's what's going on here. So earthquakes generally happen, um, like I said, even in Japan, you can really notice it, where the Pacific plate's diving underneath Japan, and Japan being part of North America, the North American plate that reaches all the way around. Excuse me. Jeez, boy. Um, and Kamchatka, the same kind of thing. All the same thing happening in Alaska. Yeah, there's lots going on, and one plate going underneath another plate, creating rifts and on the interior. And you'll see when the plate that's subducting the JDF or the Juan de Fuca underneath North America here, that plate is this old. So this is the outer boundary of the Juan de Fuca, or the inner boundary, however you want to call it, and or um, whatever has gone down below. And you can see the extremities of it. Um, and the right here is the um, Yellowstone Park, which is on the boundary of Juan de Fuca. This is what scientists believe. So needless to say, as I drink a little cup of coffee, it's getting cold. I don't know why. Anyway, I let it stand too long, I guess. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. Um, uh, that 6 point, or the 7.0 or 6.9 that took place, you can see it's been acting up in the last 30 days in the area, more concentrated earthquakes around here, and then finally, bam. So we've been kind of expecting it here in the north. And as I said, looking at the 6.0 that took place in Hawaii, I was looking for something along electromagnetic limit somewhere in Chile, or again happening in Japan to Kamchatka, and then somewhere along the East Pacific Rise here. Haven't seen this one yet, but we may. But it did match, and so you just draw your line straight out, and it comes out, and quite possibly something could be happening here within the next 3 months to show us. Because remember, it's geology time, not microwave time like we live in. And we're here, we're just a vapor, if that. Making our mark here in the world around us. Geology, and our planet is a lot older than us. So it functions at a different timeline. And the plates moving at a certain speeds, you know, affect where the earthquakes and how fast they're going to go. Everything moving in the Pacific at a north west direction, right into Kamchatka in the Japan Kuril trenches, and which scientists now believe those are deeper than the Marianas. But even at that, man, 25 miles deep all the way around. Yeah, everything crushes at that depth, I think. But interesting, what's happening that took place in Chile, and it happened right in this region here, this antiplano um, uh, microplate. And so it's like, hey, what the heck? What is that telling us? And trying to divine those different things is kind of really hard. We're trying to see whether or not where the next big one's going to be, and take all that information and synthesize it together and present it saying, wow, wow, wow. So by looking at the solar stuff here, 4446, right here, it's that big monster, I think. 4449, I'm not sure what they're calling 4446. Is it out there? That's what gave us our near M just the other day. So we're looking at the sun here. Look at this angstrom here, 131. And as it downloads, da, 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 da. You need that. Yeah. Anyway, right down here is the active sunspot that is kicking off a lot of energy. And I don't know where the C8 happened, but what happens is the magnetism of the sun gets off a little bit. And then as it does, it can release energy popping off. And we'll see. Looks to me like what's coming around the mountain, so to speak, coming around the sun is a lot more active than we anticipate. So this is the big sunspot coming around the corner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we can look at LASCO. The LASCO is our satellites looking at the sun. And right now it's quiet, but there was a big burst yesterday. There was one, right, that took place yesterday. It went away from us. That blast from the sun didn't come towards us. It went away. And we're looking at a 2D issue here. So almost directly away from us. And looking at what the really these guys looking at stop it. Oh my gosh. Clemmer. he's he's laughing with his dog. Clemmer Doodle, boy. I should just make it quiet. There you go. But there's nothing that's blasting off at us, and you can see the plasma density on the top and the radial velocity of the sun's spin and sending out solar wind toward us on the bottom. And if you want to look at it a little more clear, there you go. So today being the 27th, this is probably near the peak of what solar wind we're going to get. And it should drop off maybe down to about 3 or 4 plasma. So when we look at, near 400 and then three or 4 protons, that's kind of what's being said there. Looking at the solar wind in another way and looking at it as it hits our magnetopause, you can see there's not a whole lot of pressure upon our planet. This is our own magnet, and it's how it's buffeting with positive and negative ions coming from the sun, usually helium or hydrogen particles. That's emanating from the sun in solar wind and in like I said, positive or negative stuff. So 372 kilometers a second right now, about 3 protons, or just under 3, and standoff of our outer ring of our Bowflex or our magnetopause, where it's really noticeable, is about 13 rings thereabouts, and then the dynamic pressure is less than 1. So when I look at that, I go, wow, okay, the sun's not doing a whole lot. I look at the ground magnetics. There's a bit of ground magnetics today to report. And nothing to report, actually. And the auroras are way up there. This kind of coincides with the auroras, being right here in Canada. As the sun, right now, this is a 4 hour window, as the sun traverses across from Africa to South America, you can see it's picked up. Right, right now it's picking up. So there was a strong pulse at about 1600 hours UT, which is about 2 hours ago. I don't know what we're at right now. Where we're at right now, looking at this, guys. You can see the BZ was in the south and then also in the north. It's pretty equal what's going on. So the energy level for the sun looking at us is right now it's 2.28 in the north. God bless it. And on this day in history, we saw an X2.9 in 24. In 2003, we saw an X1.9, and nothing real spectacular happened since. Our last X flare happened last month on the 24th. It was a 2.5. Our last M flare happened this month on the 22nd, which is about 5 days ago, was a 2.3. And then the last geomagnetic storm was a G2, happened on May 16th. And we lost audio for a minute there. I'm laughing my ass off here. I don't know when we lost it, but we did. I looked at Faith, and she said, "Yeah, we lost audio." Yeah, well, I found it. But anyway, so I don't know what happened. Yeah, that last cough. Anyway, so there's a rock out there that's 16 or 60-foot rock, and or 16 foot, 18 foot. How big was it? 18-foot rock. So you got a big rock that's 18 foot around, traveling at near 9,000 miles an hour. Do you think that can mess up your world? If I was in a spaceship. Yeah, there's a reason why Elon Musk doesn't want to go to Mars now. Too damn dangerous. Takes too much. He doesn't have enough money. I don't even know when. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, we heard the bells ringing, and then I told you about this. There's a little earthquake here, and then Toyah, Texas. There's another one in Toyah, Texas, in the Rustler Hills. What else? I was talking about solar weather, and I said there's no significant coronal hole in our sector. The sunspot from Jan Coleman. Pretty cool pictures, other than the ugliness of the solar wind things out there that are polluting our planet. Yeah, you can make one, but you can't break one. Oh, you can break one, but you can't repurpose it. You got to bury it in the ground. Thus, does what? Pollutes our ground. Yeah. So, needless to say, in the evening skies, there are 3 planets in the sunset sky. When the sun goes down at night, step out, look at Venus, Jupiter, and converging in the twilight sky. Noticeably together every night as they head tight in a conjunction that should take place on the 8th and the 9th. And Mercury will join them too. You know. Well, I fixed the audio. So I don't know where it was, where I wasn't. Class M chance is at 40. Class X is at 5%. And we were talking about some rocks out there. There's a bigger rock, but it's quite a bit more distance than 600,000 miles. It's closer to 4 million miles. But it's over 100 foot. It's 108 foot. Yeah. That's a big one. Then there's one a little bit further out there that's more like almost 5 million miles away, and it's near 75 feet. So these are the rocks that we know about. Now they're discovering rocks almost every day, and some of them burn up and some of them don't. What I like looking at when we look at LASCO, these are LASCO 3, periodically we can see a diving asteroid or a comet diving into the sun in its last hurrah. And then, so it didn't hit any of us, which is really good. But the sun absorbed it. Yeah. And this blast here, although you can see it kind of going all the way around, it's almost due right away from us. It didn't come toward us. So, all right. I think we're all good. If you're looking for Uranus, well, you got to look on the other side of the sun because it's directly on the other side. In the morning skies and the evening skies, you'll see Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter. Yeah. Yeah. And you can't see these because during the daytime, this is what we see, I guess. It's over here. This is more the evening. We've been seeing Jupiter and Venus pretty clear from my house. I guess I'm on the planet Earth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at the tremors then. Yep, still the Trinity National Forest and the forest just north of it, where there's weed. Mount Shasta. Yeah. And the Klamath National Forest just south of it. Some vibrations happening out there. And as they move forward toward Medford, there's a reason why we watch these is because there's a series of volcanoes that run all the way down the coast until just about Sacramento. I think the one that's out here is the bottom of them, and that's something called the Cascade Mountain Range. This one, and then Mount Lassen, and then Shasta, and then moving on up to Crater Lake, and all these other ones. And the backside here is a lot of volcanic activity, or volcanic stuff that's gone on as a result of the cascadal subduction moving north as it has over time, over 180 million years, right? Either out to shore or brought in, however it happens. And then the spreading of Nevada, weakness in the plate pressing apart. There's the actually volcano up in here. Yep, there's a big one right there too, right? And over there and right there. There's a ton of volcanics. But these vibrations may or may not be related to the volcanoes that are in the area. That just so happen that they're vibrating along the Cascadal Range, which is not the coastal ranges of the mountains, but on the other. They're not earthquakes. They're kind of like vibrations where the ground is creeping. It creeps. Anyway, what else we can do? We can look at the power outages across the U.S. Texas has got 27,000 people out of power right over here. And that's due to probably some very bad weather that took place yesterday. And as that moves out into the Gulf and through Louisiana, there's still a danger up in a northern part of Texas. But the major weather is over the capital of the United States and Virginia. Uh-huh. And out that way. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and look at the COD. We'll show you. And if I put the rain on, pretty bad weather down here. Wow. We got a little bit in Oklahoma and a smidge running through Colorado and Kansas, getting blown out from Montana all the way through Wyoming into Nebraska. And then on the East Coast, we'll see moving up into the far east or the northeast of the United States, in Boston and the Virginias and the like. And then off the coast of Florida, you've got an uptick of moving weather coming out of the Gulf. So if I put it in motion for you, push play, you can see big push coming out of the Pacific, merging with what's happening already coming out of the Gulf and moving north. Big bad weather coming out of Texas right now, moving into Louisiana, heading toward Mom over there in Tennessee. But hopefully it erodes. Yeah. And we got a cold weather moving down the coast here. This morning was kind of chilly here in AZ. Kind of odd. It's like, feels like fall. But hey, let's look at the upper level jet stream. A lot of dry air off the coast of the East Coast. A lot of wet down in the central part of Texas, as you can see. Very big storms brewing there. Moving all the way up into Canada. A low pressure moving down California. And looking at the lower levels, dry way down here in Baja, strong dry. And yes, we're dry here in AZ, but we have this something here, and then you can see what's coming out of Texas, filling up some stuff in Kansas. Looks like bad weather is going into Oklahoma and then Nebraska, and it's migrating northwest. So Louisiana, Missouri, Tennessee, and we'll see Arkansas there. We'll see what happens later tonight, because these things are building and just continuing to build. Let's go ahead and look what's way out to sea. Hey! West. There we go. Lots of dry. Here's the jet stream moving up into Baja and actually diving south. Maybe it's making room for the northern jet stream to come down like it's supposed to. I don't know, man. I don't know. There is some indicators of that happening. Here's the storms right now. We have a weather alert right here for Atlantic City. Severe thunderstorm warning. Yep. For New Jersey. Yep. And also a tornado warning here in Lancaster. Or severe thunderstorm warning. And Ohio. Yeah. Not good. And then we go. Let's go ahead and look at through windy and dusky. Looking down here, we're looking for not that seas. No significant wave height. Something moving here. 19-foot seas moving north, and air pressure. So about 29. Nothing real indicating anything. High pressures down here, low pressures here. The high pressures off the coast. These got to break down so that we can get some weather. But it is approaching summer, right? Satellite. Supposed to have some sort of possibility of inclement weather in the Gulf of America. Looking at NOAA, nothing happening or expected to happen next 7 days here in the Eastern Pacific, the Central Pacific, nothing, and the Atlantic. Nothing's supposed to happen over the next 7 days. But that could change. Right? Yeah. All right. So going into volcano news today. According to Volcano Discovery, May 27, 2026, Santa Guido, Fuego, Popo, Simiru, Ibu, Dacono, Reventador, and Mayon. So we have Guatemala and Mexico, Indonesia, Ecuador, and the Philippines. So in Ecuador, we have possible emissions out of Reventador. We go to the Philippines, we've got 9,000. It has nothing to do with me. It's just a pop-up. Fucking people. These people piss me off. Fuego in Guatemala. Mayon in the Philippines. It's an 8,000-foot mountain going to 9. Fuego is 12.3. Emissions happening. I mean, gases and vapors and stuff. Sanger in Ecuador, 17,000 foot mountain. Possible stuff happening. Simeru in Halmahera, 15,000 out of Simeru. It's a 12,003 there on the bottom of Java on the southeastern armpit, just close from Bali. Sabancaya, 19,000 foot mountain in the armpit of South America, just north of where the earthquakes were happening. 23,000 foot. So, 4,000 foot dinger. Yeah. Puris, Puris or Purace. All right. Volcano in Colombia, just north of Reventador in Ecuador, along that same chain, and Sangay being that part of that same, is still active and popping off and coughing, coughing a fur ball. Popo, 20,000 feet there in Mexico City. It's a 17.8 going to 20,000, so it's a burp. And Sakurajima, the bottom of Japan, 10,000 feet, pretty strong. I mean, there's some 3 million people living in the southern part of Japan, all around this big giant lake, and they got this volcano that goes, boom, whoa, and like shakes your windows. I mean, if they even have windows, do they still make walls of paper over there? I just don't know. Ibu and Dacono there in Halmahera, just south of the Philippines, just north of eastern or western PNG. Eruption was reported. Santa Guido, Guatemala City. New lava flow erupting from the flank. So, it's a 12,000 foot mountain, and it's dribbling down its face, and that's kind of new. It's just shorter than Fuego. Fuego's like Fire Mountain. It's almost on a. You could almost set your clock to it. About every 20 minutes, it pops, and when it pops, it does anywhere from 500 to 3,000, 3,500 foot, all the time. Santa Guido is 50 miles north, and it's part of another volcanic complex, Santa Maria, which in early 1900s blew its top at a VEI 3, as big as it may have been in the early 1800s, or I think it's in the early 1900s, but it blew its top as big as the one up in Washington blew up. So that was a VI 3, I believe, as well. So when it did, it lost itself. And so now Santa Guido is, on its face, growing again. So very active spot there in Guatemala, near the coast, and about 50 miles northwest of Fuego. So Guatemala City's near Fuego, and I think they used to have the capital a little closer to where Santa Maria was, and when that thing blew up, they moved. Said, "Oh shit, let's get out of here." Smart cookies, but they chose another mountain, Fuego. I don't understand these people. Santa Guido, yeah, ongoing. Reventador, 14,000 out of Reventador is 11,000 and change. They're in Ecuador, just south of Puris. Probably, well, if I showed you, I can show you without having to kill you. Let me close all these things. Go to here. Volcanoes. Yep. A lot of volcanoes in the West, eh? Yeah, down here. Here's the volcanic arc. There's subduction zone. Goes right down here in the face. Nevada del Ruiz. Here's Puris right here. Nevada del Ruiz is right here. That's the other volcano there in Colombia that is popping away. But dismiss. I'm gonna see what the distance from Puris to Reventador. About 294 kilometers. Now, I don't understand kilometers. So I need to change that setting. Yeah, use the imperial setting. There we go. All right, turn that off. All right. Done. God bless America. So about 184 miles, Puris to Reventador, and then to San Gays another 300 miles. Nevada del Ruiz is about 200 miles away. So what we have is failure to communicate. But Nevada del Ruiz is an active volcano in this region, and Puris is as well. Puris. Pure ass, okay? God bless America. Reventador is active. Sangay is active. And then we also have one little Cotopaxi, somewhat active right here. Right? But the volcanic arc moves out this way. And it's kind of funny how there's two volcanoes behind the arc that are now active. It might be that these are all going to die out as the plate that's subducting is actually dropping down and no reason for it, or it's moving inland underneath all this stuff. And then there's like no volcanoes from here down to here, 800 miles. It's like, what happened? Yet there's a subduction zone. Probably what's going on here is that it's a shallow subduction plate, and what do you mean by shallow? Well, let me tell you. In one sense, there's a sharp, subducting plate, right? In another sense, it kind of meanders. And this one is a shallow. A lot of scientists believe that Southern Cal kind of had this kind of thing going on, a shallow subduction zone versus a stark subduction zone. The stark is more like what's happening from the California Oregon border is really stark, and then it kind of flattens out as closer you get to Vancouver. Although it's more active, those volcanoes are more active in the north than anything else. Yeah. So there are now like 5 zones divided here between all of these volcanic mountains. Glacier Peak, and then there's a couple more up here in Canada. The belief is that it's more shallow subducting up here, less shallow here, and more stark here. And I think it has a lot to do with age, also the type of plate being subducted underneath. Yeah. So anyway, I'll close this. So that's kind of what's going on. Sangay, 19,000. It's already a 17 and change going to 19. Ibu doing 8,000. It did 10 and now it's doing 8. So it's doing both 16 hours ago. And that'll be that for you there. Looking at the USGS, they don't report everything. And I'll show you a difference between this. I wish they'd only show us newest. Yeah. So the last 2 earthquakes are here south of Australia. And then where's this one? New Guinea, Papua New Guinea, right here. In the news, it's not in the news, but there's a volcano sitting right out here in the Bismarck Sea. That's basically close to a mile underwater. but it's erupting. And when it erupts, all that material rises to the surface, all that gas and the like bursts through the surface of the water and then rises again up to 4 miles high. It's like, holy smokes. I mean, what is it doing? It's probably building an island. And very dangerous. If it were to explode catastrophically, it can produce massive tsunamis. And that's the worry. So when we get an earthquake here, like a 4.8 that happened today, uh, and then like we had in the last 7 days, right? There was another one right up here by the volcano, 5.7, and then this one along the plate boundary as well, another 5. You know, moving right up into that area where the volcano is. And I think I've got it listed right here. Right over Bismarck. Here we go. Right there. Here's where that submarine volcano is, right? And then looking at these earthquakes, right next to the damn thing, right? Here's that island. Here's that island right there. It's like, are you kidding me? you know? And but over here, there's Manam volcano. That thing's popped off 60,000 feet in the last 5 years. Uh, Kodover volcano has as well. Not that high, but Langilia, it's erupted. Uluwan, it's erupting. They just don't make the news every day. Bagana, that's active. Down here in Vanuatu, Aoba, that's constantly erupting, right? And then Yasur, the same thing, And then, of course, Hunga Tunga Happy Eye exploded and was the largest explosion or loudest explosion since Krakatoa. Not quite the largest, I think. Tambora or the Indonesian volcano that exploded, back in the 80s was much larger. But this one, it's an island, and I don't know how deep the water is. It don't look like this anymore. you know, it's pretty shallow. This whole thing was the volcano. Yeah, it ain't there anymore. Nope, it blew its wad. But anyway, a couple of earthquakes have happened here in Japan yesterday, 4.6. And then today, another 4.6. So pressure moving north or backfilling the pressure that's moving south. Yesterday, 4.7 is here. So we have near fives on the far east. Up in the north, near the Rat Tail, Rat Islands, 4.6. Lots of 4.6s happening all around the world. Up in California, there's a 2.8. But down here, 4.2, Candelaria, Mexico. There is a report in south of Guadalajara, in this region, that a volcano, Michoacan, that a volcano is starting to build, or it's like water, steam, or whatever, popping up in a guy's backyard. Now, that's pretty reminiscent of another volcano that exploded and built up, and now it's a mountain, and the guy doesn't have a yard anymore. I don't think he has a house. But that's happening here. And I don't think they're too far apart. I could do a search for you here. Um, what do you call it? Yeah, Michoacan. Hydrothermal eruption was reported inside a home in Mexico. Um, it reported, yeah, it's bizarro. Um, Authorities in Mexico responded after a sudden hydrothermal eruption reportedly occurred inside a residential property in the community of Salitri de Lexitan de los uh, Huervos. No, Herbivores. Oh, man. Um, there's a video shows the steam and mud, sulfur smelling gases violently emerging from the ground, prompting evacuations of nearby residents and animals. Yeah, I mean, the guy's complete yard is probably 80 feet around in a wall, and the mud is engulfed the whole backyard. And it's pumping up 3 or 4 meters up and about 10, 13 feet. And it's just bubbling and steaming, and guy has to move. It's just it's like you spend all your money and you buy a house, you go out and buy a land, and all of a sudden it turns into a volcano. That sucks. But, um, oh, no, I'm not going to listen to that anyway. Um, yeah. Boy. um, much like what's going on in that guy's backyard, it happens in Southern Cal. Also, it's happening in Baja California. There's another gal that's on YouTube. I like the gal because she's a straight shooter like I am. Um, Unstoppable Mud Volcano in California, the physics girl. Check her channel out, man. You'll like it on there on YouTube. But I can't play it because of copyright stuff, and I realize that. So sorry. Um, and I can show you a picture of the steam here. Of the guy's backyard. Can't put the sound on. You can see the mud puddle right there. I mean, his whole yard's screwed, right? So, and the whole community's lost their way. So, Savine row. If you want to look that up, I'll put the link inside of chat here. So you can kind of look it up. I think it's pretty interesting. You can find that on YouTube. Look up Sevenro and, subscribe to the channel, support the guy reporting that, hey, something's happening in Mexico. Yeah. Anyway. So that's happening then just south of Colima. There are some earthquakes around Puerto Rico, the DR, 3-3, and then 3-3, and then a couple of deuces there near threes. This area has been super active for better part of 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 5 years if I remember correct. Periodically, we'll get some strong earthquakes out here, even if I did a 30 days. You'll see a big one that happened at 6 happened May 16th. So that was only 10 days ago, 11 days ago. But we're drilling down. You'll see all of these are just normally happening that southern shore of Puerto Rico, which I think is going to fall off and sink. And when it does, be massive tsunami there. But, you know, this volcano here, um, that six that took place 10 days ago has yet to produce anything as a result. And you can see the pattern of earthquakes all throughout the United States, you know, and up through Canada. And then nothing happened in Hermosillo. So pressure moving up the north, and then it gets stuck. It's too damn quiet there. But I can go to the Mexico City or the Mexico seismogram, seismology. Servicio Seismological Nacional, and you can see where all the earthquakes are happening. Now, up here is where that guy's volcano's happening in his backyard, up in Morelia there, or Michoacan. Morelia's out here. Acapulco's still pretty damn busy all around it, in Guerrero. Oaxaca's kind of quieted down a bit. Veracruz has got some activity, always moving right across Veracruz for some reason. To me, it's like this part of Mexico wants to break from this part of Mexico and the Yucatan. It's like, hey, we don't want to be here. But the subduction zone, and you can see what's happening, the pinch. Well, anyway. And the San Felipe Gap through Ensenada into TJ and San Diego there, semi-active the last couple of days. That's pretty much it. You can go on to the EMSC, which is the European Consortium. And if you watch the world, see, they're reporting that there's a 4.0 off Michoacan, 1533 hours. And then, so that's not too long ago, actually. I think we're at 1600 hours right now. So about an hour ago. Right there. 4.2. Is that the 4.2? 4.0? I can't even tell if it's the same one. Yeah, it's virtually the same one. So, and then you see a smattering of earthquakes around Indonesia and Philippines and PNG. So if I go back, just scroll down real fast, right, and move up, you'll see a pattern start to persist 15 hours ago. Now, 15 hours ago, we had a 4.5 Fiji with 610 kilometers in depth. That's pretty damn deep. Watch the pattern as I go closer to time. Watch the movement of the earthquakes. We can see pressure moving due south out of the Caribbean plate into South America and then move across. In Indonesia, moving on down the coast out into New Zealand, and then moving across Europe and continuing to move down the coast. So that's what I like about EMSC, but they report everything that they think is happening. USGS doesn't. So 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. What else we can do for you? Looking at the fires in North America, Looks like in Los Angeles, the Sandy fires are relatively under control. What does it say? God bless it. My gosh. 2,100 acres. He hasn't grown. So hopefully they got that sucker out. In Garden Grove, down here, there's a chemical fire that's happening, and very, very dangerous in this area. It's a aerospace industry, and it has some chemicals that are wanting to explode, and they have some 40,000 people in the area evacuated. So pretty crazy there. And there was an explosion up in Washington. 9 people are missing, and a couple have been found dead. Another mystery explosion, and then I think there was another one that happened. I want to say yesterday, the day before, in Central California. It's like, hey, what are all these things happening? You know, or was it back east? I don't remember. But anyway, doesn't seem like a whole lot of fires right now. There are some fires in Florida and in New Mexico, and hot spots throughout. Alberta's got some stuff burning, but it's not major right now. If we looked at the COD again and looked on the natural color fire, and we just push play. Oh, go to 200 frames. You can see as the night disappeared, I don't see any red spots other than here in northern New Mexico. I don't know if that's on my screen here. Let me subregional. Yeah, you see these fires right in here. View localized. Yep. Doesn't look like they're too massive. Big enough to show on screen, but and you don't see any smoke. Maybe it's from you know, lightning strikes. Let's see. Is there anything else? No. Well, it's 9:48 here in the West, and it's Wednesday, baby. Yeah, and as a result, you know, I need to make that a little bit smaller for all y'all. There you go. And remember, you know, what day it is. Yeah, it didn't come out. Sorry about that. And if you didn't remember, nope, it don't work. Oh well. Big hugs to y'all, and remember, don't get none on you. And we'll see you here again. If something should happen, I'll pop right back in here in the studio, not too far away from it. Been monitoring all these days because just have to do it. Thanks for your tips, your subscriptions, and help me create more content for you. I need to, I want to do another upgrade, and we'll be seeing how long that will take place. I got to sell some old equipment and then see if it can't turn into something really cool that we can not have to worry about OBS or Meld breaking down with us anymore. It will be doing it live, also in other videos. Yeah. Nick hasn't produced anything in a while, or released anything in a while. So he's on vacation, of course, which is really good for him. He's probably up there in Alaska, to tell you the truth, with his team of cohorts, and we'll see. Take care of yourselves. Again, thank you for your tips and your subscriptions. You can leave gratuity, streamelements streamelements.com/JoeSlickLive /! And or just in chat here on Twitch !TIP, and it'll give you the link, and you can see it on screen right there. Oh, you can't. Not yet, anyway. Yeah. Oh, it's streamelements.com /JoeSlickLive /TIP. So thank you. And if you're over on YouTube, thanks for watching, and make sure you tell others. If you're on Facebook, do the same. And I'll be posting there to y'all here shortly. And Rumble as well. Take care.